Oh my God, I don't know how the rails go off. Sometimes the train just derails and parts go flying everywhere. Sometimes just the simplest little thing turns into just absolute catastrophe like it did today pretty much. So we got our 3/4 ton OBS truck that I thought I got a really good deal on. Super clean body with hardly any rust on it. Just gonna make something really simple and rebuild the motor and everything for it. Found out that the motor was in a flood, and well, not just the motor. We found out this motor, 350 Vortec motor, very much underpowered and crazy lack of power these injected motors had back then in their throttle body injection. But I wanted to upgrade it, put a 6-liter in it, single turbo on it to make a everyday driver tow rig out of it. And now it appears that not only is the motor garbage, the everything, you can see some of the rust in the cylinder walls here. Well, these cylinders had so much sand inside of these cylinders. The pistons are just rusted solid in there. Oh, the oil that came out was just absolutely, it looked like mucky glue, mud, rust. It was just absolutely disgusting, nasty. And we found out that there's mud and sand. Oh, you can see the top of the intake manifold even over here. The intake manifold, everything on the top of that was just covered in silty mud and everything as well. And this is all what the whole motor and transmission and everything was, just this fine, silty, sandy dirt. And it's all on the inside of the intake manifold. It's just everywhere. And all injectors are toast and everything as well. So pretty much the motor, garbage. Just gonna harvest a couple more sensors off of it, and that's about it. And then all of this is garbage. We're throwing it all away. But worst case even yet is trying to pull this thing out today was just a nightmare, because the motor was locked up solid in it, and with it being locked up solid, you can't get at the torque converter bolts to separate the motor and transmission, because you can't turn the motor over to get at the top of the torque converter bolts. So we ended up having to take the motor mount pads off the top of the frame, which is absolutely horrible. It's a 2-person job. It should be a 4-person job, taking these motor mounts off to move the motor up and forward, and to get it to dislodge from the torque converter. And the torque converter has to come out at the same time, so it has to come this far forward to disengage that before the motor can come up. And then the transmission and transfer case had to come out the bottom, so we had to jack the truck up in the air to get the motor and the transmission and transfer case out of the bottom of it. And when we did, we pulled the dipstick out. It shot out like a geyser of transmission fluid all over me and everything else, because the transmission was completely full of water, and it had been sitting in there for quite some time. So it pushed all that water into the bottom, which pushed all that transmission fluid up out of there, because transmission fluid is lighter than water, and it made a transmission geyser fountain. And the transfer case was completely full of water as well, and that means the bearings in the transfer case are probably shot. The transmission clutches, the valve body, the springs, the check balls, everything in that transmission is probably shot as well. And this is probably not a rebuildable core, and this is supposed to bolt onto the back of that 6-liter LS motor. So being as this was a Vortec motor, in this it has the bell housing with the top bolt and everything in it, which you would use on an LS motor. This bolt does not get used on an LS motor, but it does on a small block Chevy. So this is kind of a crossover transmission as compared to some of the older 400s and 350s and stuff. So this is a 4L80 that came in this truck, but now all this is probably shot. If that isn't bad enough news, what it really hit me is I just helped a friend get rid of his Suburban that we parted out to get rid of, and the HVAC unit is underneath the dash of this, and the HVAC unit is underneath the dash with the heater core and the blower motor and the AC condenser and all of that in there, and that's all underneath the dash completely, and the dash has to come out in order to get at that. That more than likely is full of sandy silt and everything. The seats have been replaced. They must have taken the rubber matting underneath here away as well, so it was clean. It wasn't showing signs that it was in a flood when I first started looking at it, but after I found out that the Lusk, Wyoming Public Works is what's on, it was a city county truck at one time, and that Lusk Public Works, I did a little research on a flood in Lusk, Wyoming, and that is obviously where this was from. And apparently they had some big flash floodings in the river valley, and it flooded everything. You can see right here, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, it says Lusk Public Works on it, and there's a cowboy with a cowboy hat and a horse on it. And really funny story is I have 3 OBS Chevy pickup doors now with cowboys and horses on them for some odd reason, but that's where it came from. So it was completely submerged underwater, and that means the HVAC unit and all the blend doors and the AC condenser and everything else has to come out completely to get rebuilt. And what could possibly be better than that great news today of just to get the motor out of this thing so I can start putting the new motor in to get my daily driver back on the road. And guess what? Now it's rebuild the whole entire truck time, and I don't have the finances to do that. So guess what? This project is going to have to sit for a while till I round up some more funds and get some more parts. Apparently a lot of them. So it stinks, but it is what it is, and now it's time to get some other work done around here. But that's the kind of butt kicking that some of the stuff you get into when you get into this kind of things. It was a chance taking the truck, and he said that it was a possibility that it was in a flood, but he also said that he had changed all the transmission fluid in the front and the rear diffs, and drained the oil, which apparently none of that was true, but I never checked any of it, so it's been sitting in here for quite some time. So it stinks, but we'll just have to get back up and dust myself off and get ready for another kick in the balls again. You can't win them all. Be nice to get one once in a while, though. Don't forget to like this video. Click like, throw me a comment, let me know what you think. Ring the bell for those notifications when we get a new video. We got lots more coming up, guys. A lot of cool stuff coming up. I hope you guys are enjoying the ride.